This is Eric Calvillo, and you're listening to Tectonic Takes.
Hey, welcome to the Tectonic Takes podcast. But in this case, this won't be the usual full-length podcast that you normally expect from us. Due to our schedules recently, it's been interesting trying to find a time for us to gather together. Will's not with us tonight, but we also wanted to briefly talk about the latest happenings in the Mls Cup playoffs, and we want to address that before our next podcast, where the MLS Cup final will have already happened, with Favi interviewing Jamin Moore. So today, Favi and I are going to talk about both the conference semifinals and the conference finals of the MLS Cup. This won't be as in-depth as usual. I won't be going through every single lineup or everything, but we'll talk big picture stuff, the main events of each match, kind of wrap up the eliminated teams and how they did this season and where they go from here. And we'll go over the predictions we made and make new ones for the MLS Cup final. And that'll be it for today. So, Favi, how have you been keeping up with the MLS playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a little busy out here in Japan trying to find a job and kind of getting a work schedule down. Same goes for you. So it's just been a little bit of a headache. Kind of, I guess the off season came at the best time, right? So we all kind of got our personal lives handled. I got a little baby on the way, so me and my wife are, we're getting ready for that day to come.
How much more time?
He should come out in February. It's a boy, so we're happy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 2 more months, about early February.
Yeah, exactly. So okay. I'm ready to be a soccer dad. I'm out. I got a little Quakes, some Quakes clothes for him already. We're gonna call him Leo. So it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be.
That means you have one less transfer window as a non-parent.
Yeah, exactly. Late nights, it's going to be later on in my life. It's going to be because of crying and things, but not looking up rumor mill stuff. But yeah,
you're going to miss a lot more transfers now because you're not going to be able to stay up as much.
Right. Well, what's funny is since I'm already like 17 hours ahead of time, so it's going to be like, oh, wow. Well, I guess Favi's up at a regular time for you guys, but for me, it's probably like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. or whatever. Right. So, yeah, I'm excited. Definitely excited.
I've never spent more than like a week or two at most out of this time zone at a time. So just for that period of time, it does shift your whole perspective of things as a sports fan. But to make a permanent move like yourself and not just travel to the other side of the country or even to Europe, travel to Japan where it's almost always a different day than all your friends and family back in California. Is an interesting experience.
Well, I'm in the future. I already know who wins. I mean, I know these games. They already happened for me. So no,
so you don't need a job. You can just make money gambling.
Yeah. I'll put a sports bet down for Las Vegas while I'm in Japan. No, but
I'm sure your wife would be thrilled with that.
Yeah, right. Fantasy football was just hard to get by. I got really lucky this year and got guys that just didn't get COVID and didn't get hurt. So definitely all the fantasy football players out there that are in my boat, big ups to you. You chose the right people. No.
Yeah, I was in 3 fantasy football leagues this year. I did pretty well in one. I did about middle of the road in the other, and I did pretty bad in the other. And the one I did bad in, it wasn't even like COVID or anything. It was just the most inconsistent team you could imagine. Like aside from Alvin Kamara, everyone was inconsistent. Tom Brady, Justin Herbert, Julio Jones, Clyde.
Wait, Herbert's not inconsistent?
You got 1.7 points from me this week.
Oh, yeah, this week. Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, when I didn't have a single week where everyone just had a normal week. Someone sucked, like beyond sucked, and it cost me most weeks in that league. And the league that I was in the middle of the road in, unfortunately, it was one of my few bad weeks, and it's 12 players, and we're doing a weird 10-team playoff structure, so we're only doing 1 week playoffs, and unfortunately that's me out, but I still have a chance in one league. So
yeah, crazy year. I mean, looking back on the MLS, I'm just happy we had a season.
Right.
I'm in that boat where it's like alluding to what we're going to talk about in this episode or in this little short snippet is I'm more in the boat that I want to see a team that already won. So you kind of see what I'm trying to go for right now, but
No.
we could call it a wash. I mean, Seattle got another ring. It's okay. It's Seattle, but
we don't know yet. Columbus could still do something.
Yeah, it's funny. This is a Cascadia type of MLS final because Caleb Porter, managed those Portland Timbers for years. So it's like if anybody knows how to beat Seattle, it's Caleb Porter. So we're probably gonna have a great game on our hands. I think two very strong teams coming out of MLS's back, just dominant teams, and we're gonna get into that. But first, I want to give a big shout out to all of our Patreon subscribers. Thank you. We truly appreciate all of you guys, all what you do for us. You help this podcast stay afloat, and I truly appreciate that. We do have a Facebook now. You guys are probably watching this on Facebook or YouTube, but go ahead and follow us on Facebook since we had a little Twitter debacle. And I lost our Twitter for a bit. We're finally back up, but make sure don't put all your eggs in one basket. So we're on Facebook now too. But yeah, and then quick shout out to the Beautiful Game Network and Roughneck Scarves and Icarus FC for continuously sponsoring this podcast as well. All right, Ivan, let's get into the meat and potatoes.
All right, so where we left off in our last podcast covering the MLS playoffs, we made predictions, Favi and I, about which teams we thought were going to make it to the conference finals. And we each went 2 for 4. Unsurprisingly, one of the two we each got right were the Sounders.
Yeah.
We chickened out, and it worked out for us. Sometimes chickens do prosper.
We did cross the road, right?
Yeah. But then we went opposites in every other pick, and it was 50-50. So we – oh, actually, no. We both got Nashville wrong. We believed a little too much in them.
Yeah, but hey, I mean, Nashville, what a great story this year. I mean, if you're a Nashville fan, I mean, you got made fun of so much, right? Just being the second-tier team coming in. Like, you guys aren't spending any money, da-da-da-da-da. And look, I mean, you made it to the playoffs. You won 2 games, something that the Quakes haven't done in, 10 years. So it's definitely something to be proud of if you're a Nashville fan.
You beat 2 teams that spent a lot more money, and that's not always the formula for success. And through Miami, everyone was more excited for them, but their stars didn't really show up when it counted. Toronto FC, you had the same old stars and some younger players filling in old shoes, and they were expected to challenge Philadelphia, but turns out neither Toronto or Philadelphia were quite up to the challenge this year in the playoffs.
Are we going to talk about the Landon Donovan MLS MVP snub right now? Are we gonna dabble in that a bit? Pozuelo from
talk about that.
Toronto FC won that award, and I'm sorry, I have not seen a single highlight of this guy all year. As a San Jose podcaster, I'm thinking it's going to Diego Rossi, it's going to Nicolas Lodeto. These guys are just quality lads. These guys are gonna make. I mean, Lodeto. What's funny? I just named 2 Uruguayans.
Well, yeah, that's not even a San Jose podcaster thing. That's an Uruguayan thing.
Yeah, but but those are 2 guys that could have won. That should have won the award. Look at Seattle. Look at what Diego Rossi did with LAFC without Vela and without Diamande when they lost him in the beginning of the year, without Walker Zimmerman. Right? Mm-hmm. That's never MVP type of season, but I guess they wanted to give it to. What happened in that boardroom? I don't know. I guess I'm not going to be in that boardroom. I'm not going to know, but definitely a snub on my end, I think.
Yeah, Alejandro Pozuelo had a best 11 kind of season, but not an MVP kind of season. That's the best way I can put it. Congratulations to him, though. Whoever wins it, I'm going to be happy for them unless,
Yeah.
they did something
It's a
horrible.
Quakes player.
But,
unless it's not a Quakes player getting snubbed, right?
oh, yeah, that would suck, too.
I mean, man, some Quakes had some pretty good seasons, and it's just, I guess, though that stretch where we lost 7-1 just didn't make us or didn't let us have anybody in the best 11 or in the MVP running type of thing. But Espinoza had a great year. He definitely, if we didn't lose as many games as we did, he could have been up there too.
Yeah, there's some bias when it comes to MLS awards and stuff. If LAFC lost 7-1, I don't think that would have ruled out Vela or Rossi from the MVP.
Yeah, that's right.
But these things happen when you're in San Jose, and you just gotta hope for better things to come. But you hope for the best, expect the worst. That's just how it goes.
Yeah, and Ivan, did you get to catch the Seattle-Minnesota game?
Yeah, I did, but first let's go in order. So
okay.
We're going to go through the conference semifinals. So we have both got the Sounders right.
Yeah.
Both got Nashville wrong.
Mm.
And the ones that we were mixed, I got New England beating Philadelphia right.
Mm.
I think that's what happened.
Yep.
No, New England beating Orlando right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what happened was New England beat Philadelphia the round before that. Yeah, now I'm remembering right.
No worries.
And then I thought Sporting Kansas City was going to beat Minnesota, but you were right. Minnesota ended up beating Sporting Kansas City. And
by a
let's
lot.
Just start with the
Sporting did not look good at all. Tim, like you said in the chat that we have, Ivan, Tim Melia used up all his saves, right? I mean,
yeah, he used up all his saves in the penalty shootout. And
gosh,
it was a really wild game, and it could have gone so differently. For the first 15 to 20 minutes, I think Sporting Kansas City were all over Minnesota United. I remember Michael Boxall had to make a goal line clearance.
Yeah.
And there were some other close calls, but the cliche proves true. You have to score when you're on top, otherwise it bites you in the ass, and that happened to Sporting Kansas City.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so Minnesota United, they made it to another semifinal. They made it that far in the MLS's back tournament, and they are hell-bent at this underdog thing, even though they've been doing a lot better this last year and been more consistent than most other MLS teams. And I get it that by being Sporting Kansas City, you then had to go to Seattle Sounders. So you went from the top seed in the West to the defending MLS champions. So
yeah, right.
By default, you were technically the underdog, but it's no longer David and Goliath when you're Minnesota United.
Yeah.
There's somewhere in the middle between the two.
Yeah, and I was hoping for Minnesota to win it all because I wanted Kevin Partita to get a ring. But we're going to have him on a little later this month, I think, if not in December or in January. And he's going to speak about his experience moving over to Minnesota and kind of going to the MLS playoffs. And then as well as, the unfortunate tragedy that Reno folded, things like that. So keep an eye out for that.
But wasn't Kevin Partita, this was a transfer for next season, though?
Yeah, just I guess like kind of moving there, things like that, right?
Right, but he wouldn't get a ring this season.
Oh, he wouldn't?
No, because he wouldn't be on their roster for this season.
Then I'm rooting for Seattle. I take back my root.
You take it retroactively for games that happened already.
Yeah, exactly.
So we talked about Minnesota United, and that was just the first of their two games here on our schedule where they had a pretty wild game there. And it was the same night as well where Cruz Azul beat Pumas 4-0 in the first leg. But as all Liga MX know what happened and expected to happen, they choked. Pumas would go on to go to the Liga MX final, and that will be pretty much all we talk about from Liga MX.
But
I'm so pissed about the Chivas losing.
isn't Cruz Azul always known for choking? Like that's the thing.
I replied to Tom Marshall's tweet that Cruz Azul is Spanish for Atlanta Falcons, and that got some laughs.
Oh man, yeah, that's a bad nickname to get if you're in the football world for sure. Down or up 28-3 and just blow it in the Super Bowl. Jeez.
Right, and then in the next game we had Seattle Sounders. They beat FC Dallas. It was a 1-0 game. It felt rather tame compared to some of the other games that these two have had in the past. And Nicolas Ladera had the game-winning assist, and the unlikely hero, Shane O'Neill, put it in the back of the net. It was early in the second half, so it was one of those games where champions know how to win results even when they're not going full speed. And I think that's what they did in that game against FC Dallas.
Yeah, and that game there was a couple of – actually, FC Dallas had a couple of shots that came off the post. So it definitely could have gone another way. FC Dallas looks like a strong contender for this next year to come as well. So they should keep their head up because they look like a great team. If they're going to have the former, MLS champions advancing on them with a corner and a center back scoring, I'll take that any day, man. Like you didn't have a bad display, unfortunately, on a set piece. You just let a couple things happen, and that's it's an unfortunate way to go out, but it's also something that you can build on.
Right. And FC Dallas continues to be mass producing young American talent in their ranks. They've sold Reggie Cannon this season to Boa Vista, and they already have his replacement right back linked to Europe as well. So that's kind of an interesting position to be in. They still have the likes of Jesus Ferreira and Paxton Pomico coming up too. I think FC Dallas are starting to not just be a talented team with a youth academy, that they're starting to have the building blocks to become a more consistent MLS and playoff level team, and we'll see how that works for them.
Yeah, and it seems like that part of Texas is just a great talent pool. I mean, you probably get a lot of Latin influence from from Mexico and a lot of Central American countries, but I guess that's just a great talent area, and they always pump out kids. I mean, they always pump out players, men. It's insane. They do a great job down there.
All right, so that's the Western Conference semifinals concluded. So that set up Minnesota United versus Seattle Sounders. With Sporting Kansas City getting knocked out, Seattle Sounders got to host the next game in the MLS playoffs.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. Do you remember the last time a stadium name was changed mid-season before CenturyLink Field becoming Lumen Field?
Oh, yes. Avaya Stadium to Earthquake Stadium, right?
Right, but like a name change to like another sponsor.
Oh, another
Earthquake
sponsor?
Stadium is kind of like.
If we would have found another sponsor, right? Because they went because Avaya went bankrupt and we didn't have another sponsor. So
right,
yeah,
and I guess you can understand that, but CenturyLink Field certainly isn't bankrupt.
Yeah,
CenturyLink, I mean. But anyway, now we'll go into the East, and New England Revolution got a 3-1 win over Orlando City, and they just kept chugging along. That they were the Cinderella of this year's playoffs.
Yeah.
So they were the 8th seed. They had to win 3 games just to get to the conference finals. And the only non-Cinderella things about them is that they have a coach who has won an MLS Cup before in Bruce Arena.
Yeah, and he showed his quality out there. I mean, that's the type of coach that you want on your side during the playoffs. I mean, even if during the season you didn't have a great season or you didn't put up the most points, if you're in the playoffs, you're still in it. And he found a way to win with the Galaxy teams, even though he did have a lot more talent, but he's definitely weathered and tried for playoffs.
So, and I knew that this was going to be a trap game for Orlando City because they did have to go without Pedro Gallese due to the red card he received in the penalty shootout against New York City. And, of course, they weren't going to put Rodrigo Schlegel in goal for all 90 minutes. They went with Kellen Rowe, the former LA Galaxy player, and he was average at best for them, and he still doesn't seem like the type of goalkeeper you want playing for you in a playoff
in the
game.
playoffs.
Although
Yeah.
I would say the same about Andrew Tarbell, and
right.
his team are in the finals, albeit like we'll see. There's a chance that he might start, he might not with that situation. But
Yeah, I tried to reach out to him on Twitter to see if he wants to be on Tectonic Takes, but that was before I realized that he was actually starting for Columbus and getting playoff minutes, So that's good. I mean, good for him for getting, some good quality playing time and kind of rejuvenating his career. So that's good.
right, so New England Revolution, they're built in a similar way as FC Dallas. Like, they don't grab a lot of headlines for their youth academy, but they're built with a lot of solid players that they don't have the international pedigree. Like, when I think of their international players, like Carlos Gil, he had an okay European career, nothing too eye-popping. But I think that New England Revolution are one of those teams that you just can't write off in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
I don't see them winning the Eastern Conference next season, but that doesn't seem to mean much anyway with the way Philadelphia Union and Toronto FC, the two best teams in the regular season, going out early in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But I can see them having another decent run next year too.
Yeah, and I mean, the New England Revolution have a player like another Uruguayan, Diego Fagundes, where he's just a solid player, a solid MLS player that's always on their squad, always does well, and they keep talent. They didn't sell him off, so they're always like lingering. This New England Revolution's always lingering around the 8th spot, so they can make some noise always, right? So maybe they make one or two splash signings and have them or help them kind of surpass that next step for them.
Right. And Orlando City, I think that next season is going to be very interesting because I think that Miami have now shaken off the rust of their first season, and now there can be a legitimate Floridian rivalry between those two.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see that first game. I mean, second year of Oscar Pareja. I mean, and maybe they find some more quality players like Dyke and Mueller this year, Mueller, right? Chris Mueller.
Yeah, I think Mueller is right.
Mueller, okay.
MUE.
Yeah. And
he's really good.
They found those two players this year, so maybe they can, churn out some more talent out of, Orlando. So I'm excited to see what Oscar Pereira can do with that team going forward. And then as well, Miami, Fort Lauderdale or Miami, but yeah, I think they're going to have a better season. Like you said, they're going to kick the rust off. Higuain's going to have time to get Higuain brothers, are going to have time to get accommodated, and Matuidi maybe has a little more fire in him, a little more grit. So I think that team is a playoff caliber team, and they might compete for the top seed.
Yeah, the Higuain brothers, I have faith that they're going to still be consistent, but Matuidi, I feel like this is an important year for him. Otherwise, either go back to Serie A like Zlatan did, going to AC Milan after MLS,
the retirement league of Serie A.
Or he'll get a big paycheck somewhere in Qatar or China.
Or Japan.
Possibly. I mean, did Japan really overpay for players like Andres Iniesta? I don't think so.
They overpaid for Iniesta, but they actually get a lot of talent that's like from the Brazilian league. Like remember the big name that was possibly coming to MLS that was Kikise Honda. He actually went to Brazil. So a lot of you guys don't know this, there's a big population of Brazilians in Japan and as well as Japanese in Brazil. So they actually get a lot of talent from Brazilian leagues here in Japan. So they don't really overpay too much for these Brazilian guys, but since they come with a little bit of flair, they're fun to watch. It's kind of like their DP signings. But no, yeah, definitely they don't overpay too much. But again, that Miami team, that they should be a great team. I mean, and Ivan, we forgot about the sleeping giant, Atlanta United. Atlanta United being good is good for the league. So
I think it'll take more time for them to improve. I think we still need to see what kind of player Joseph Martinez is when he returns,
Right.
and what's left of the squad, because so many different players are coming back and forth, and like it's really weird.
Yeah, I mean, I was really hoping that they were gonna buy Danny Husen from us that at the beginning of the year. That would have been nice little paycheck. And I'm kind of bummed too. I mean, we might talk about this a little later, but like, why didn't we get any money for Vaco or for Danny Husen? If we knew we weren't going to sign them, we should have been shopping these guys. And that's completely, totally unfortunate. I mean, in what day and age do you
the
sign?
Wait and see approach. They're still playing at that very safe level, but high risk, high reward. And when there's no risk, there's no reward. So you have to use up that cap space and try to find someone else. But you guys will talk more in depth about Quake's offseason moves with Jamin Moore. So
yeah, we'll definitely
just
go in.
briefly touch upon it here.
Yeah.
And lastly, we had it was Columbus Crew, was it? Yeah, beating Nashville 2-0. And Nashville, it was a bit less shocking that they did well in the playoffs than New England Revolution, because I think Nashville had a bit strong end to the season. In my opinion, I think the way that they were playing the game, they're executing their game style, it was almost to perfection for them. So I think that they were going to give everyone a tough fight until they were eliminated, and it happened to be here. Columbus Crew are a pretty good team. I think throughout times in the regular season, they were in that conversation with Toronto and Philadelphia.
Yeah.
They made one of the smartest signings of the season, bringing in Lucas Zelarayan,
Yeah.
which went in against probably the biggest, or not biggest, but the most improving signing of the season, bringing Walker Zimmerman to Nashville to get them to that next level.
And
ahead.
Columbus was coming out of the MLS backturn. Remember when they were number one, where they won all their games in their group, and everybody thought that they were the powerhouse of the league, that because Caleb Porter and Giassi Zardes were just, taking that team to the next level. And this all happened after the Save the Crew, right? So this is a really nice story for the Crew. I mean, they got to save their club, and we got to see Austin FC come into fruition. So again, if you're a Crew fan, go to the stadium once they open up again safely, and make sure you support that team, because they're doing this for you guys, right? This is out of Precourt's hands, and this is all for you. So make sure you support that team, because this is a great story for them and for the city of Columbus.
Right. And looking ahead a bit, Columbus is a very solid front six of players. Their defense is pretty good too, and their biggest weakness, I think, is their goalkeeper, especially if Tarbell is their one of choice. But Eloy Room also, he's had his ups and downs. But anyway, having Artur and Nagby in those center midfield spots, Luis Diaz and Pedro Santos on the wings, Lucas Zelarayan as the cam, and Giassi Zardes up top. When I compare that front six to the front six of the Seattle Sounders, I think the only area where the Sounders have a significant advantage is that striker spot. Rui Diaz is a much better player than Giassi Zardes.
Yeah, but then again,
when Giassi Zardes gets hot, but even then, I would still rather have Raul Rui Diaz on my team.
But Giassi Zardes just finds a way to score goals for that team. It's weird, man. Like he just scores a whole bunch of goals, and it's not on the international level. And on the international level, he just forgets how to play. But in MLS, he scores goals, and he's a great player. But we'll see. I think Rui Diaz is definitely way more. I think, it's really funny. Yeah, Rui Diaz is what Giassi Zardes is to Peruvians. That's exactly who Rui Diaz is. He plays for the international. He plays for Peru, and he just doesn't do anything, and he's horrible. And they just watch us Seattle Sounders highlights, and then he's like, "Oh wow, I wish he could do that for the national team," but he just can't. So I think it's pretty funny that comparison came to mind. I don't know. Have you watched any of these games, Ivan? Have you seen Tarbell play? It's weird. It's so weird to think that Tarbell is their goalkeeper of choice, and they're in the finals. I mean, and they put up a clean sheet against Nashville, so it's just odd to me.
It's still a murky situation for me. I forget if there was like some sort of injury or red card that Tarbell was thrust into the lineup, and then he happened to have a great game or something, and they stuck with him. or if it's still kind of goalkeeping committees are obviously very rare, but that might have been one of them. But yeah, all logic would tell me to trust Eloy Room instead of Andrew Tarbell. But at the same time, as much as he was slightly more useful than Daniel Vega in a Quakes jersey, if he wins an MLS Cup, good for him. And now I might have to root for him against Seattle.
Yeah, I remember him being a good shot stopper. So, I mean, maybe that's all they asked from him.
Vega.
Yeah, that's all they asked from him, because I remember he couldn't distribute the ball at all, and that was a huge problem. Maybe he's changed that. But I just think, yeah, how do you even play from the back? Or maybe, you know what? Maybe they just kick the ball forward or to the half, forward on goal kicks, and then they just have Giassi Zardes pull it down. So I mean, they have a tall striker out there, a target striker that they just go ahead and kind of just get the ball. But yeah, I guess we'll see, right? If Tarbell starts in the final, we'll see how he does, and if he wins the ring, that's good. That's great for him because he's a former Quake, and at least we got something for him. Not like letting Vako leave and Danny Husen leave, but we'll get into that.
Right. So Crew would go on then to face New England Revolution in the Eastern Conference Final, and it was a close game with Arturo scoring the winning goal. Jonathan Mensah was a rock at the back, and Lucas Zelarayan was a problem up front. I think Columbus Crew, they're not a team that's just going to be, we're up against Seattle. Well, I guess we lost the MLS Cup because it's Seattle.
Yeah.
We tried. No, they're not going to be like that. They're going to be a good competition for Seattle. And to Seattle's credit, they've had a tough road to the final as well. They had LAFC in the first round. Then they had to sneak past FC Dallas in a 1-0 win. And then they had to do the improbable comeback, a 3-2 win over Minnesota United. So Sounders, They haven't just been given the red carpet to strut to the MLS Cup final once again.
Yeah, and I think what makes these two teams better than the Quakes, and I see one glaring missing piece from the Quakes. Both of these two teams have former MLS quality players that were on different teams. And that is something that the Quakes or Jesse Fiorinelli just does not like doing. He doesn't like
Darlington Nagbe from the Timbers to the Crew.
Right.
Jesse Zardes from LA Galaxy to the Crew.
Yeah, exactly.
For the Sounders, you have
like Will Bruin. Think of Will Bruin, right?
Yeah.
Still scoring playoff goals for the Sounders.
Stephen Fry.
Exactly. Yeah. Just quality former MLS players, and then they bring in their DP caliber guys like Nicolas Lodelo, Rui Diaz, Zelarayan. I think that's how you say it. But basically, Zelarayan. Yeah, and they take the team to the next level because it already has a good foundation. The Quakes need to have a better foundation, and then you'll see stars like Espinoza, or if we get like a Matias Sukar, they will succeed if they have a good foundation. Unfortunately, like players like Vako didn't have that foundation, and we just didn't want to sign for some reason MLS players, and it's kind of where we're at.
Two of our guests, Marvel Wynn and Quincy Amarikwa, were from other MLS teams.
Yeah,
I wish that was the case, but going through the Quakes roster in my head, all these players on the roster have either spent the majority of their MLS career or their career in general in a San Jose Earthquakes uniform, which is great. But
it's good. Yeah,
I want a mix of experiences too. But we signed Andy Rios, Danny Husen, Florian Youngworth, Waldo Alanis, Utzon, all from outside the league, Carlos Fierro. So it's an interesting situation. Kashia and Vako too. So.
Yeah, I guess that's what they brought Jesse Fiorinelli in. I mean, they were done with the Mark Watson, Dom Kinnear type of soccer teams that didn't meet the status quo for the owner. Because, I mean, think about these two teams. Like I said, they both have great quality MLS players, and then they have their DPs that take them to the next level. And they don't have – the only problem I see in Columbus is their goalie. I mean, if it's Andrew Tarbell starting, I'm worried for them. But, I mean, looking at Seattle, Jordan Morris quality. Nicolas Lodeto, quality. Rui Diaz, quality. Fry, quality. That back line.
Gustav Svensson, he scored the winning goal against Minnesota, and he's played in a World Cup with Sweden.
Yeah, and he's a super sub, right? He comes on at the end of games. And
for Sweden. He starts for Seattle.
Oh, okay. So he starts for Seattle. And then Jovan Jones, Nuhu, these type of quality guys that I would love to have. And again, Brian Schmetzer is just reeking the benefits of, he did a lot.
Delasau, Stefan Fry.
Yeah. This guy has this coach, Brian Schmetzer, has taken them to 4 MLS Cup finals in the last 5 years. And you should have a part of the stadium, regardless of what the stadium's name becomes from here on out, named after him, because he has done a good job. And it's a tough act to follow, Siggy Schmidt, who did a good job as well, but he's brought even more MLS Cup success to Seattle. And in a city which has had a mixed bag of fortunes in other sports. Mariners haven't been to the playoffs in almost 20 years. Yeah. You have Seahawks, who they got the Super Bowl, but some would say that they haven't capitalized on Russell Wilson's talent. And then they lost their basketball team to Oklahoma City. I'm not sure why that decision was made, as much as the Oklahoma City Thunder has been exciting to watch sometimes. But and you do have also the Seattle Storm will give them credit for winning the championship this year as well. So it could be another situation like LA having 2 championships in a very weird year with the Dodgers and the Lakers. Seattle can get the job done on Saturday. Yeah, and I think Brian Schmetzer is making a dynasty right here. This matchup for the final is going to be probably this might be a little bit of a stretch, but 2 coaches that are probably going to go into the MLS Hall of Fame, and that's Caleb Porter and Brian Schmetzer. These 2 guys have been to the final before. They've I think both won the final, right? Caleb Porter has won.
Caleb Porter won with Portland.
With Portland, yes, with the Milano goal, against Columbus
Crew. Yeah, I know, right?
So definitely kind of a nice little arc for Caleb Porter as well. So this is going to be a great game.
Yeah. I will close the Seattle comparisons by also mentioning that good luck in the NHL of the Seattle Kraken.
Yeah, Seattle Kraken, I was going to say. They have sick jerseys, man. Gosh, that's nice. Yeah. Nice little team.
Yeah, it's going to be an aquatic battle when they play the Sharks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but
I'm excited for this MLS Cup final, though, because I think both teams are very solid. They didn't win their respective conferences, but who cares? They went through the gauntlet. They've beaten some tough teams to get to this point, and they have proven quality players for this league, many of which represent their respective national teams, many of which are on the USA radar, or who are just pretty good players, even if they're not national team players. So, and they do have the coaching to back them up as well. They have the MLS Cup pedigree. Crew, I believe, won one with Guillermo Barros-Schelotto as a player. I think it was 2008. And Seattle Sounders, of course, have been there, done that. So I think this is going to be a really tough one to predict, right?
Yeah. This both quality sides. I think it's going to come down to if Andrew Tarbell is starting. I think Rui Diaz, Lodeto, and Jordan Morris just wreak havoc and maybe
They're going to be pumped up. They're going to be so excited to see him in goal. And that's
right. They're like, oh man, we've seen this guy before for a worse team. Like what's going on here? But no, I think it's going to come down to one of them making Tarbell make a mistake or the goalie a mistake.
Right.
Where they find pressure and they just make the back line or the goalie pass the ball wrong. Jordan Morris is really fast, so he's probably just take it to the end line and then bounce it right back to Rui Diaz for a goal. And that's I'm gonna think that Seattle's gonna win. I'm gonna say 2-0. I'm gonna make it like that. Seattle wins 2-0. It's gonna be 1-0 for a long time.
I think it's. Okay, keep going. You can finish.
Yeah, and then Columbus is going to try to press and try to send everybody forward, and then they give up another late goal. But I think it's going to be pretty conservative, 1-0 for a long time, and then 2-0 Seattle.
I think both teams, they're going to find ways to score, whether it be through open play and set pieces. I think it's going to go 2-2 through 90 minutes and then stay that way. And then it'll be decided on penalties. And I think Columbus Crew, I don't know how they're going to do it, but someone from Seattle is going to miss. And then Columbus Crew is going to lift the MLS Cup.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know why I think it's going to be. I've been so quick to just predict Seattle for every other round that we've done predictions for. But I just have a feeling that Seattle Sounders, they dodged a bullet against Minnesota, but it's going to catch up to them in the MLS Cup final. In a similar way that Minnesota United, they dodged a bullet against Sporting Kansas City. They were lucky not to concede a goal in that early stage of the game.
Yeah.
And they managed to capitalize on their chances. And then Seattle Sounders sucker punched them. I think one last word on Minnesota, though.
Yeah.
I do want to give a lot of credit to Manuel Reynoso.
Yeah.
He scored one and assisted 7. So he scored or assisted all of Minnesota's 8 goals in the playoffs.
Quality.
That is incredible.
Yeah. Insane. Yeah.
So that's it. And
real quick
for MLS Cup MVP, I think they'll give it to Zelarayan if Crew wins. So I'll give it to him.
Real quick, because Will isn't able to join our podcast today. He actually predicts that Seattle will win 3-1.
3-1. Yep.
3-1. So for my MVP, I'm going to go Nicholas Lodeto. I think he's going to have a very solid game where he has maybe 2 assists. And he's had an assist in the last 6 Seattle games in a row. So definitely going to have an impact on this final. And I think he's won it before, right? He's won the MVP when they won against Toronto. And this is a quality player, guys. I mean, this is a quality
Last
team.
year, didn't Victor Rodriguez win it? It was the Spanish player. Let me double check.
Yeah, we'll double check that. But I'm actually gonna. I'm looking right now. It's on Sunday for me at 10:30. So I'm actually pretty excited. I might watch this with my family, my Peruvian family, and then we have something to finally cheer on together, right? So Nicholas Lodeto, the Uruguayan, and then Rui Diaz, the Peruvian. So we're excited. I'm going to be excited for this one. I'm going to watch it. So it's going to be a good final. I think MLS was
Rodriguez did win the MVP last year. Let me check Nicholas Lodeto. He might have won it the other year that they won.
Yeah.
Because he's now been at Seattle Sounders for a few years now.
Yeah, he's been there for a while. Came from Boca. But, yeah, I think this is going to be a quality game. I think this is actually a game that MLS would have liked to have, not like a Minnesota-Nashville type of final.
So it looks like he hasn't won an MLS Cup MVP.
Oh, wow.
He's won the Newcomer of the Year award in 2016, CONCACAF Champions League Best 11 in 2018, MLS All-Star in 2019, and MLS Best 11 in 2020. So that's interesting. This could be Lodeto's year if they come out on top.
You know, that's crazy. He hasn't won in a single MVP or a title MVP. That's actually kind of crazy. And Seattle, they were dominant before him, but when he got there, I mean, that just took this team to this championship caliber team, right? So
he's always been a top 3 to 5 player in this league, but there's always been that one player that wows everyone just a little bit more.
Right.
But yeah, let me end this off by mentioning the Mls Cup Time for our time zone as well. So you can catch Seattle versus Columbus Crew Saturday, December 12th, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern on Fox, Unimas, and TUDN in the U.S. I'm not sure if we have any Canadian listeners, but it's on TSN and TVA Sports in Canada. So it's going to be pretty cool. I will have worked through it, so I'm going to try to watch what I can, follow through my phone, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch when I get home too. So,
and guys, make sure you watch this. Support MLS so we get more lucrative contracts, and then we can get more money involved in our club, and then soccer will be bigger in the United States. So definitely we have to do our part to watch this final.
I was thinking this was going to be maybe 15 minutes at most today, but we've extended the conversation a little longer. It's always a pleasure talking to you, Favi.
Yeah.
And I look forward to listening to the interview with Jamie Moore.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I appreciate
it's going to be
that.
a lot of fun. We're getting content a bit more regularly again.
Yeah.
And I look forward to what Tectonic Ticks podcast can bring to all you guys in this off season.
Yeah, and definitely, guys, we appreciate all your support. I want to thank our Patreoners again, and then I also want to thank all of our supporters for keeping with us even during the off season. We have a lot to report on. We're going to have a lot more interviews to come, and if you haven't followed us on Facebook, please do. We are on Twitter and YouTube as well. We are doing these new video formats so that we can be a little more involved with you guys, and then as well. Don't forget to 5-star, and then thank you to the Beautiful Game Network for sponsoring this video, as well as Roughneck Scarves and Icarus FC. Ivan, this is actually a podcast. We made it long enough to be a podcast now.
Yeah, we'll see how we end up distributing it, but thank you, everyone, for supporting us, and I hope everyone has a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever you celebrate, enjoy it. Even during this unusual year.
Stay safe.
Take care and be safe. Yeah.
Get vaccinated. Okay.
All right. Go Quakes.
Go Quakes. Bye-bye.